From PRX, it's... This week, comedian and writer Guy Branum.
Jeopardy is old magic. Like, Jeopardy is from when you were 10 and you were like, those people are amazing. I can do that. And it's like, well, maybe you can do that.
With writer Julian Brave NoiseCat.
One of the interesting things about Jews and Salish people is that we both love smoked fish. We come by our gastrointestinal issues honestly.
Nice.
And music from Georgia Mac and our fabulous house band. I'm your announcer, Elena Passarello, and now, the host of Livewire, Luke Burbank.
All right, thank you. My goodness, we have got a lot of show for you this week. It's going to be a good one, but of course, we've got to kick things off the way we always do with a little segment we call The Best News We Heard All Week. All right, here is how this works. The news is, generally speaking, not great, but with enough time and dedication and combing through the far back reaches of the news, there is good news out there, and we've found some of it this week. We'd like to present it to you. Elena, what's the best news you heard all week?
Okay, my best news starts with a question. What is the most famous phone number in America, Gen X? My people.
We did not rehearse that, for the record. And that
My
was...
people. I just got goosebumps. Anybody know the name of the band? Tommy Two-Tone. That's right.
Okay. I did not know that part.
So I think that song, Jenny, 8675309, came out in the very early 80s. And apparently it was a real menace for anyone in the country who had the phone number 8675309. Apparently there was a North Carolina middle school that had to just go dark because they were getting so many calls. Alabama, Ohio, lots of people. One person said, "I'd like to choke that guy who wrote that song." That guy's name was Tommy Heath. He's the co-writer of the song for his band, Tommy Two-Tone. He's still touring at 78.
Wow.
One of the reasons is because he's got loyal fans like y'all who love that song. And recently, a healthcare marketing agency got in touch with him, and they did so on behalf of a global nonprofit company called the Cancer Support Community, and also Gilda's Club. And so these are two nonprofits dealing with cancer research, cancer support. Gilda's Club, named after the great comedian, my favorite comedian of all time, Gilda Radner. They purchased CSC, which is I think 247 or something, 242, 8675309. And now, when you call that number anytime, day or night, you will be connected to trained professionals who can give you support as you go through your cancer journey. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
It's just so cool. It's the opposite of what happened at that poor middle school in North Carolina. Yes. From what I understand it, when families and people are going through cancer journeys, they often need support at hours, in which they're not in a doctor's office or they're not with their people. But it just seems like such a perfect use for this, it's a 24/7 situation where you just might need to reach out and get some kind of information or care or emotional support or conversation. And Tommy Heath, who wrote it, said, the reason that I'm touring at 78 is because of y'all, and giving back to the community that supported me is the least I could do. So that's the best news I heard.
That's
all
amazing.
Week. Really though, the best news I heard all week is y'all knowing that just from one single question. Yeah. Thank y'all very much.
I couldn't tell you one person's phone number who I've met in the last 15 years.
Yep, yeah.
But I could tell you, I don't know many of my siblings' birthdays, but I know 8675309.
Also,
so it's very smart.
588-2300
Empire. We'd like to welcome new sponsor, Empire Carpets. Home of a cartoon guy who does the entire carpet in your house with one swipe.
Love that guy.
The best news that I heard this week takes us over to England, to northwest England, to an area called Lancashire, and specifically a little town called Dolphinholme, where a woman named Claire Adamson lives. And about 3 years ago, Claire was driving home. It was a very rainy night, and she noticed that there had been a ton of frogs and toads that had been trying to get across this rainy roadway and had, let's just say, been unsuccessful. And as she said to the paper, I'm a massive lover of animals. I don't like to see anything getting squished on the roads. So she called up some of her friends, and she said, we're starting something called Toad Patrol.
Toad Patrol!
And only 4 of them said, okay, I'm going to help you with Toad Patrol. It was not widely embraced early on. This is a few years ago. And what she and her 4 friends did is they went out and, like reflective stuff about sunset on rainy nights, and they would basically stand at their flashlights and make sure that toads and frogs were getting to the other side. They're trying to go to their spawning pools a lot, and so when it's rainy out, they tend to move across the roads. This year now, she's got 50 people volunteering to do this. They think they estimate that they've saved already this year 700 migrating toads have been carefully helped across the road. This is some advice from Claire, which I'm going to be honest with you. It seems fairly intuitive on how to help get an amphibian across the road. If you spot a toad, you walk up to it, you check that there are no cars coming because you don't want to put yourself at risk, she said. You pick up the toad. You check what direction it was facing. And you move it to the side of the road that is the direction it was facing.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
Can you imagine being a toad who was almost to your destination? And Claire just sets you back by like 3 hours?
Yeah, great.
I find this story sort of like so lovely because, as you know, I suffer from a self-diagnosed condition I call intrusive animal empathy. I think about animals a lot. And in fact, maybe 4 nights ago, it was crazy rainy around here. Yeah. I was driving home, and I was driving on the kind of road back to my house, and it was very wet, and there was a frog in the middle of the road, and I stopped my car, and I put my hazards on. I did not pick it up because I do think they're kind of gross.
Aww.
But I was just there with the hazards on, ready to beep at anybody who came the other direction until he got to the other side, which he did.
Did it take a while?
It took longer than I was expecting. I thought that was insane behavior, but Claire is clearly much more insane than me when it comes to amphibious, transportation across the roads. So the fact that Claire and her friends are over there in Lancashire getting the frogs and toads safely across the road, that is the best news that I heard all week, my friends. You're listening to The Livewire from PRX. Our first guest is a writer, Oscar-nominated filmmaker, and champion powwow dancer. His work has appeared in a bunch of places, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the New Yorker. His documentary film, Sugarcane, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, where it won the Directing Award in the U.S. documentary category. And he's got a book out. It's titled We Survived the Night, which weaves together an oral history with journalism and a deeply personal father and son story, all into a searing portrait of indigenous survival, love, and resurgence. Please welcome Julian Brave NoiseCat to Livewire. Julian, welcome to Livewire.
So good to be here.
Julian, let's, if we could, let's start at the place that you're not supposed to start with a book, which is the cover.
The cover artwork is actually a painting by Jean Quick-to-See Smith, who is one of the most significant American painters of the last century. And I say that in part because she was one of the most significant artists to represent the figure who's on the cover of the book, the trickster coyote. And that painting is actually a painting called Coyote Sees the World Clearly. And there's this kind of crazy story that I tell to open up my book talks about how I got the permission to use that painting on the cover of the book. And then 3 weeks later, actually, Jean passed away. She died. And then fast forward to May of 2025, I found myself in New York City on the first Thursday of a month. And so I wandered down to the gallery district to catch a show. And as I was walking out of that show, I turned left and I looked to my left. And what was on at the Garth Green Inn but a retrospective by none other than Jean Quick to See Smith. And so, of course, I walked in and I was greeted by not one but two of her artworks representing the trickster coyote. So I went up to the guy who looked like he probably owned the place. And I told him, like, you know, this is who I am and this is how I'm related to Jean and her artwork. And he looked at me like I was absolutely bonkers. And then he said, that's crazy. Before Jean died, she used to joke that she was going to visit me from the beyond.
Wow. You kind of alluded to it there, but I mean, the trickster coyote is sort of the third character. If I think maybe of you and your father, and then also your sort of stepfather, Coco, like the coyote is a huge part of this story, and you sort of jump between styles of writing, between your story and the coyote's stories. Why did you choose that format?
So to write We Survived the Night, I did a really sexy thing for, at the time, a 28-year-old bachelor who'd been living on the East Coast for the last decade of his life. And that was, I decided to move back in with my dad. A man who had left when I was about 6, 7. We had a complicated history. I'm a child of two worlds. You know, my name might be Julian, brave NoiseCat, and I look the way I look. But my mom's actually an Irish-Jewish New Yorker. So to write this book, which I knew would have a lot to do with my ancestry, with my relationship to my dad, with sorting out those things, I decided to move back in with him. And my dad is a visual artist, so, you know, while I would be like sort of hunched over my laptop with terrible posture trying to figure out how to write a book, my dad would be out in the garage, which doubled as his carving studio, like leaned over a log, jamming out to Zeppelin, taking rips from the bong. You know, I had this notion that I was going to ornament the text with stories about the trickster coyote, who was the trickster ancestor of my people, who was sent to the earth by the creator to set things in order, but who was a trickster. And so, you know, while he did some good, he was often up to no good. And this began as a very small idea, and I actually had not really heard any of these stories told in my life ever before. You know, we don't really tell these stories anymore. So to learn them, I had to read them in like old PDFs of ethnographic texts that I was finding on like Google Scholar and JSTOR and stuff, you know, learning about my Indian ancestry through the internet. And, you know, I was reading in the PDF that the trickster coyote was this creator, destroyer, deadbeat dad, survivor. And then I was looking out at the garage carving studio at my father, and then I was looking back at the PDF and back out at the carving studio and back at the PDF, and all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, oh my God, my father is the trickster coyote. And that, Ed, yeah, and that insight fundamentally transformed the book I was writing and made me ask a question that I'd never seen asked of narrative nonfiction, you know, before, which is, what would it be to take these stories, which my own ancestors always considered to be nonfiction, seriously as nonfiction?
Yeah. We're talking to Julian Brave NoiseCat about his new book, We Survived the Night. You're listening to Livewire from PRX. We're at the Reeser in Beaverton, Oregon this week. We had to take a quick break, but much more with Julian in just a moment. Stay with us. This is Livewire. Welcome back to Livewire from PRX. I'm Luke Burbank here with Elena Passarello. We're at the Research Center for the Arts in Beaverton this week. We're talking to Julian Brave NoiseCat about his book, We Survived the Night. This book is a bunch of things, but at its core, it's really the story of you and your dad, Ed Archie NoiseCat. He grew up on the, is it Canham Lake? Canham Lake Indian Reserve. And the fact that he even lived, like, was able to live there was an absolute miracle. Can you kind of talk about his early life and how that place shaped him?
Yeah, so my father was born on August 16, 1959, in the evening, and found minutes later in the trash incinerator at St. Joseph's Mission, which is the Indian residential school that my family was sent to unlearn our Indian ways, essentially, which was the policy in Canada as it was here in the United States. By the night watchman, who described my father's cries for life as sounding like the noise of a cat in the local Williams Lake Tribune newspaper, which is kind of crazy because, I mean, you know, my last name is NoiseCat, and it actually only became NoiseCat because the missionaries wrote it down wrong. So it's actually properly pronounced, I guess, NoiseCat would be the way that the ancestral name was said. So when they colonized us, you know, and baptized us when we get married, they'd give us Christian names, Catholic names. And so ways back, my family got the name Archie, which not a native name. And so basically, when my dad got married to my mom, my father decided that he was going to reclaim his ancestral name, NoiseCat, but at that point in time, it had already kind of transformed into NoiseCat, not knowing that there was this whole story about his survival that we only learned because I set out to tell the story of his cries for life sounding like the noise of the cat. So in there's something about, you know, Indian names and the meaning of that name finding itself in the story of his survival.
I was wondering what it was like for you to go between sort of white spaces and native spaces. I know that a lot of people, because your mom is white, as you mentioned, your dad is a native. A lot of folks that are in that situation they're often trying to figure out what their identity is and where they fit in and don't fit in. It sounds like your mom was very committed to maintaining the native connection in your life. What was it like for you to go in between those worlds, though?
You know, some people sometimes ask me, like, about my connection to my Irish ancestry or my Judaism, about my mother. You know, one of the interesting things about Jews and Salish people is that we both love smoked fish. We come by our gastrointestinal issues honestly.
Nice.
You know, sometimes people ask me, like, well, how Jewish are you? Well, like the night after We Survived the Night came out, I was up late arguing with my buddy David about, like, left-wing politics. So I'm, like, about, like, that Jewish. And then the next, you know, the next day I went up to Zabar's to get, like, you know, lox bagel with schmear. And then, you know, I people don't usually see me as Irish, but actually 3 out of 8 of my great-grandparents were Irish Catholics. And, you know, here I am doing a Irish thing, you know, like writing. And I learned to write in part because my mother encouraged me to write. And my mother also, you know, did a lot to keep me connected to my indigenous family and ancestry. In a lot of ways, the book is also about her and the decisions that she made to keep me connected, but also about, you know, some of the kind of crazy decisions she made about, like, people who she was romantically involved with, such as my father.
I grew up in the Northwest and, you know, heard about the Salish people and the Salish Sea, but I don't know if I have until I was reading this book, a conception of actually the geographic scope of the Salish people. Can you describe for folks that wouldn't know where this actually occurs and who these folks were and are?
Yeah, so the Salish peoples are, we're like a large set of languages. We're an ethno-linguistic group, I guess you could describe us as, in the Pacific Northwest. According to archaeologists and linguists and sort of our own oral histories, our people probably originated around the lower Fraser River region near what is now present-day Vancouver and spread out from there. There are Salish-speaking peoples all the way from Bella Coola, British Columbia, historically down all the way to here in the Portland area, all the way across to Montana, and there are many different branches and families within our language, which tells linguists and archaeologists that we've been here for a really long time. And there are also a lot of interesting sounds in our languages. The language that itself transforms as you speak it, which is interesting because a lot of our stories are about transformers, like the trickster coyote himself is a shapeshifter. And also, the study of our languages actually helped develop a lot of concepts in linguistics. So basically, the way that they are able now to study how languages change over time and diverge was premised on the study of the Salish languages.
We're talking to Julian Brave, NoiseCat, here on Livewire. His book is We Survived the Night. You were a champion powwow dancer, and this book really kind of delves into that world and all of the artistry and athleticism that goes on with that. What was it about that sort of lifestyle, I guess, that appealed to you? Because it really was a significant portion of your life, right, in your teens and early 20s?
I've always liked fry bread.
It's the only way you get your hands on some?
No, you know, I grew up in Oakland, California, and every Thursday night there was powwow drum and dance practice at the Intertribal Friendship House, which is the third oldest urban Indian community center in the country. It was founded in the 50s. And, you know, it was a big part of our community that we would all gather around the All Nations Singers and practice, you know, the American Indian Movement song, and also, you know, learn how to dance. And after a number of years when I was a little kid, you know, watching everybody else dance because I was too scared to get out there. I mean, you know, it's like a scary thing to do when you're a little kid. I decided that I was going to get out there and do it, and I was encouraged to do so by, among other people, a figure who's fairly important in the book, a guy who was kind of like my second dad after my first one. You know,
Trickstered out.
Yeah, and his name was Coco, and he taught me how to do the men's traditional dance, which is usually considered kind of like the oldest of the powwow dance styles because it's based on dances of the hunt and the war. So you got to picture like a little chubby-cheeked Salish kid in East Oakland, but you know, like tracking like an elk on like cracked vinyl, you know, tiles. Like that's kind of what it was to be a native in the late '90s, early 2000s. In Oakland, California.
One of the things about this book that really struck me was how unsparingly honest it is about your life, about your father's life, and about elements of your mom's life. I'm just wondering, what was their reaction?
You know, it's a really scary thing to write nonfiction and also to make a documentary. I feel like I've flown close to the sun with so much intense personal history of my own, of my family's, and somehow I have managed not to get burned so far by it. You know, my dad, my mom, my family has all been incredibly supportive of the work that I've done. After reading We Survived the Night, my dad apologized to me for the very first time in his life for you know the pain that he put me through. He said, I finally understand it a bit. That was after he lost the first copy of the book that I gave him. And you know, my mom has been has been also incredibly supportive. You know, she's still my first reader she's my first editor, so she had to process all that while also like reading as I was figuring it out. And I think that she has bought into the idea that I think is maybe a kind of crazy idea that a lot of nonfiction writers share in, which is like that we can tell hard stories in a way that creates the possibility for reconciliation, which, you know, maybe current events in the broader world are suggesting that that is not possible. But, you know, I think as nonfiction writers in particular, but, you know, hopefully as people who value complicated, hard, contradictory stories about the real truth that's out there in the world, not some like black and white thing that we consume through our phones, you know, is actually something that we can grapple with and reconcile and figure out, you know, a way to move forward through these messy things.
It is a phenomenal book. It's We Survived the Night. It's by Julian Brave, NoiseCat. Julian, thanks for coming on Livewire.
Cooks Cham, thank you.
That was Julian Brave, NoiseCat, recorded live at the Patricia Reser Center for the Arts in Beaverton, Oregon. His incredible book, We Survived the Night, is out and available right now.
Hey there, Livewire listeners. It's Luke letting you know that we will be back at the Alberta Rose Theater in Portland, Oregon on April 9th with New York Times bestseller and all-around legend Cheryl Strayed, plus the creators of Ear Hustle, the podcast that was created and produced in prison, amazingly, plus comedy from Kyle Kinane and music from Patterson Hood of the Drive-By Truckers. Get your tickets at livewireradio.org. We'll see you April 9th. You're tuned to Livewire from PRX. Many people may know our next guest as the self-described staff homosexual from Chelsea Lately. Others maybe as No More Mr. Nice Gay from his time on Totally Biased with W. Kamau Bell. Then there are those who just know him as the brilliant comedy writer for Mel Brooks' History of the World Part 2 and The Mindy Project and the show Hacks. We just know him as our pal, Guy Branum, who stopped by the Patricia Reeser Center for the Arts in Beaverton, Oregon to delight us.
I am a gay guy, but I am not one of the normal ones. I am what's known as a bear. And what that means is that I am bigger than most gay guys, I am hairier than most gay guys, and I enjoy mauling hikers in national parks. And I love picnic baskets. The scariest thing about being a very fat person is when you have to fly on a plane, because some people are very upset when they have to sit next to a fat person on a plane. Like, not so long ago, I was on a flight, and a woman sat down next to me, and she refused to make eye contact with me, but she called over the stewardess, and she said that she refused to put on her seatbelt because she needed to be moved to another seat so she wouldn't have to, be next to me. Our arms were kind of touching. And here's the thing. You're being transported across a continent. There might be some inconveniences involved. You might have to take your shoes off at security. You might have to touch a fat person's upper arm. I want you to think about what that person, she's crossing people used to die of dysentery on the Oregon Trail to go half that distance, and she is being magically transported in the course of 2 romantic comedies. I want you to think about what that woman would have had to do to take that same flight 500 years ago. She would have had to sign her name in the devil's book. She would have had to locate an unbaptized baby, render down its fat, and rub it all over her naked flesh so that she could frolic with her sister wives of Satan in the moonlight. This lady just had to go have a credit card and go to a website. Now, that joke never does as well as I want it to, because I fear my audiences are not as familiar with Wiccan flying spells as I would have liked. I was in Portland, I had my hopes. It's too late! But before I go, anyone in the audience have pets? Who here posts photos of their pets on Instagram? You people need to calm down. I am so tired of people posting photos of their stupid apartment dog on Instagram and expecting me to care. It's your dog, it's your deal. Don't involve me in that process. And people treat me like I'm a cruel and unloving person because I don't care about their stupid apartment dog. Here's the thing. I love animals. I grew up on a farm. I love animals. Real animals with genitals and a job. Oh, but Guy, we had to have him fixed. If we don't have him fixed, he'll just hump the ottoman all around the apartment. Let's hump the ottoman all around the apartment. Yeah. If someone trapped you in a 20-foot by 20-foot room for the rest of your life with no members of your own species and no opposable thumbs, you might develop some interesting masturbatory habits too. Oh, he's so stupid. Our dog is so stupid. He just stares out the window all day long. He's so stupid. Your dog isn't stupid. Your dog is very good at something. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is herding sheep. Maybe it is keeping a Chinese empress's feet warm. Maybe it is finding dead birds and bringing dead birds back to you, but your dog has a skill. You won't let him do it. You take him to the park 2 times a week for 20 minutes. You act like you're doing him a favor. Your dog isn't staring out the window because he's stupid. Your dog is staring out the window because he's a housewife in 1963 with a journalism degree from Wellesley and 2 crying kids in the next room. Your dog isn't staring out the window because he's stupid. Your dog is staring out the window because he's wondering where it all went wrong. Thank you very much. I'm Guy Branum.
Guy Branum, right here on Livewire. Guy, thank you so much for coming out to Beaverton for this.
Thank you for having me, Luke. I'm sorry that I called it Portland and not Beaverton. I should have been more specific about it.
Before, I was surprised. I didn't know this about you, but before you got into comedy, you were an attorney, actually. What kind of law did you practice, and did you like it?
Okay, so I went to law school and I only briefly worked as an attorney, and my only job was for an insurance defense firm. So I was essentially the bad people in Aaron Brockovich. Not the ones that you see, but the ones behind them who are trying to keep people who have been the victims of a toxic tort from receiving money for their very real health problems. And I just had binders across from me with various kinds of cancer, and I was like, I need to not do this.
Really? Were you already interested in comedy at that point, in writing? What was your creative life like?
Yeah, I was an undergrad at Berkeley, and my last year at Berkeley, I was friends with the guy who had run the campus paper, and he was just like, you should write a humor column for the paper, and I did, and I really enjoyed that, and I did a little bit of stand-up, and then I went to law school and did nothing fun for 3 years, and was like, I'm miserable, and then I came out of the closet because I thought that would help. It did not. I mean, in a larger sense, yes, but I was, just sort of like, what do I want to do with my life? And I was trying to just point myself back at the last thing I remembered that was good or fun, and that was stand-up.
That column that you were writing at Cal Berkeley did, if Wikipedia is to be believed, at some point involved the Secret Service showing up at your apartment?
Yes. I said a mean thing about Chelsea Clinton.
What?
And it got I said Chelsea Clinton represents the Stanford ethos of establishment worship, which must be subverted and destroyed. And that was quoted by the Associated Press as Chelsea Clinton, ... must be destroyed. And so the Secret Service came to my house and searched it, and to this day, I'm not allowed around anyone with Secret Service protection. Like, the Kelly Clarkson show last year was like, we're doing a game with Michelle Obama, come host it. And I was like, sure. And then the Secret Service was like, no.
Whoa, you're on the no-fly list?
Yes, I am on the no-fly list. I can't hang around with any of our living presidents.
Wait, so even though obviously they were misconstruing the nature of what you wrote, there's no...
Yes.
Is there no more due process in America?
There is no more due process in America. I think we've learned that.
Yeah.
We have a Supreme Court who essentially has just said, no, he's in charge for the last couple of years.
Yeah. You and Elena share something in common, which is you have both been on Jeopardy.
We have.
Which I'm endlessly impressed by. I once went and watched it being filmed. I wasn't on it, but just the watching of it, I was breaking out in hives. It seems so hard to do that in real time.
As I understand it, we both came in a brave second, right?
Oh, first place losers.
Yes.
Yay! What was your Final Jeopardy about?
My Final Jeopardy was about Nobel Prizes, and I did get it right. So the thing is I, Elena, am now in the new era when they bring back first losers for second chances. And so the one thing I am able to say with pride is I managed to get all 4 of the Final Jeopardies that I came up against.
Whoa.
So you've actually done Jeopardy 4 times.
Yes. So the thing is I have been on television a fair amount. I have been on live television a fair amount. And I'm a person who is no longer scared of live television. And I went to Jeopardy and I assumed that some of my comfort being on television would allow me to have more clarity.
Yeah.
And the answer is no. Because Jeopardy is old magic.
Yeah.
Like, Jeopardy is from when you were 10 and you were like, those people are amazing. I can do that. And it's like, well, maybe you can do that.
What were your anecdotes?
My anecdotes were about how when I was in kindergarten, my middle name is Michael, and I had been called Mikey my entire life. And then I showed up to kindergarten, and there were 5 Michaels because it was the height of Gen X. And my teacher was like, well, we can't call you Mikey as well, so we're going to call you Guy. And I was like, first of all, that's not a name. Second of all, it's certainly not mine. So it was that. And then my other anecdote was the fact that a show that I am on, after I was put in the Jeopardy contestant pool, the show where I'm a recurring character was going to do a plot line at Jeopardy, and I had to be there. And I was like, is this going to ruin my eligibility because I am like, violating the game show rules by being around them? So Ken is somebody I knew from like College Quiz Bowl and stuff like that.
Ken Jennings.
Ken Jennings. And so when the cast of Platonic showed up to the set, Ken came over to greet me, and I yelled, "I'm in the contestant pool, no fraternization," and ran away, and he was understanding.
You have launched this incredible project on Instagram. It's a series that's called Things Only the Old Gays Remember. Do you feel the young gays are unaware of some important history? Who are you educating with this?
Yeah, I mean, it's primarily just to open up the window of, people have different windows of knowledge. People have different things that they understand. If you were born in 1975, you were exposed to a number of bulimia TV movies that children born in 2006 don't know about. They don't remember Callista. They don't remember Meredith Baxter Birney. And it all came from, there's a very funny comic named Tori Piskin who helps me with my videos, and we were doing like man on the street stuff in West Hollywood, and I was stopping her to tell her an important piece of gay cultural information every 5 minutes, and she is not a younger gay person, but she was like, you have to do a thing that's called Only the Old Gays Remember. And then so many people, after I did a couple of them, my friend Ray in Toronto was just like, I was just trying to explain to a bunch of younger gay people who Julian is. I know.
Can you enlighten these folks? You describe her as the better Kim Cattrall?
Yes, which is maybe unfair to Kim Cattrall. Kim Cattrall is amazing on her own terms. Just understanding that before Kim Cattrall, we had this amazing platinum blonde shag out there who could sing and deliver jokes and was amazing. And people need to understand her journey and her arc. Because these are important treasures of queer culture that could be lost.
What about the greatest drag performance of all time featuring Tandy Andrews? Can you describe this a bit?
Okay, so this is not something I knew about. It's been really wonderful. If any of you guys have things that you want the old gay to remember, middle-aged, okay? The middle-aged gay to remember.
At Guy Branum on Instagram.
Yes, please message me. But there was a guy I don't know who was just like, hey, you need to know about this drag performance, and it was in the mid-90s, and Tandy Andrews was a trans woman who was HIV positive and had AIDS and was trying to win all of the national drag pageants in the same year, but one of them didn't allow you to compete in another when you had already won one, and so they disqualified her, and she did the greatest love of all. And when in the song it says, no matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, she had her national crown on and she unpinned it and threw it to the side. And it was just this magnificent moment of ownership and artistry in the face of her own mortality. And it really encapsulates the magnificence of what drag can be.
It was so incredibly affecting.
Yeah.
That moment of taking the crown off. I watched it. It's in your video too. You get to see an example of what you're talking about.
But it was really cool. The guy who had recommended it, he said that the YouTube video of Tandy had gotten 10,000 new views since that video came out. And our history isn't official or respectable. That's part of what's great about it. But it is something that needs to be communicated because when you're queer, you don't have queer parents. You don't have people there who are there to acculturate you. And over the last couple of years, intergenerational contact between queer people has been politicized and stigmatized in a way that makes people uncomfortable to have these conversations. And also, Gen Z just loves staying at home. But there are conversations that you need to have in the back of a gay bar with an older gentleman or lady or somewhere in between who is a couple of drinks in.
Yeah. Can you talk about the fact that, in your opinion, cigarettes used to be cell phones?
Oh, I mean, this is one of the videos I did for Only the Old Gays Remember. We were just shooting a bunch of them, and then the woman who lived next door to the girl who was shooting it was outside smoking a cigarette, and I was just nostalgic for my first days in gay bars, where when you wanted to look cool and not be talking to anyone, you just smoked a cigarette in the middle of the bar in Minneapolis, and now you have to look at your cell phone.
I mean, I think there's a lot of data that the cell phones are not good for us. Maybe not in the same way physically, but certainly mentally and spiritually.
Cell phones are awesome. I think that they are great, and they allow us to stay in contact with other people, and information is magical. But I also think, like right now, you can go on your phone and check a piece of information. Elena and I have trained ourselves to be repositories of information so we can buzz in and answer questions. And the thing is like...
Because you did College Bowl and everything. This has been a lifestyle for you.
And it's like, well, why do you need to memorize who all of the Best Supporting Actress nominees of all time are? You could just look at it on your phone. But the thing is that on your phone, you only find what you look for. And there's something so beautiful about the way that you used to find things that you weren't looking for. Ladies and gentlemen, I once, while just scrolling through an M encyclopedia, came upon an entry for a state that did not exist. And I was like, what's going on? Is this fan fiction? And the answer was yes, it was Manitoba. And it opened me up to an entirely different world.
Well, for me, I think the main thing that maybe the younger generations have lost with the phones and all the information we have, at least something that was big for me, was the only reason that we went anywhere when I was in high school was on the off chance that the person we had a crush on would be at the thing we were going to.
Yeah.
And now you can just know if they're going to be at that thing or not very easily.
Can I respond to that with
Please.
a semi-salty story?
Absolutely.
Okay, once I was at Breakfast Republic in West Hollywood, and the host was kind of hot, and he told me his first name, and I put it into Instagram, and then the fourth entry down was him, and then from there, I found his OnlyFans, and that's something that was not possible in 1987.
Yeah. I have to say, you're so funny, but you're also so smart that, legitimately, this series on Instagram, I've been watching it and I've been learning so much. So I want to recommend to everybody, check out Guy Branum's series, Only the Old Gays Remember.
Thank you.
Go to school, people. Learn, educate yourselves.
It's fun school. It's fun school where I curse and I say things that I shouldn't, and you might get mad at me. I said some questionable things about Madonna, and then all of the gay guys with cheek implants came after me.
Yeah. Guy Branum, everyone, here on Livewire.
That was Guy Branum, recorded live at the Patricia Research Center for the Arts in Beaverton, Oregon. Make sure to check out Guy's Instagram page, Things Only the Old Gays Remember. It's really a treasure trove of a fun and fascinating culture. We've got to take a quick break here on Livewire, but stick around. Now, I know I always say that, but I actually mean it this time, because coming up on the other side of the break, we've got a song from the singer-songwriter Georgia Mack that is going to give you goosebumps, or stop you in your tracks, or maybe make you pull over your car, which is just the safest option. And maybe you should do that just as a precaution right now, and then join us here in a moment when we come back with more Livewire. Welcome back to Livewire. I'm Luke Burbank. Okay, before we get to this week's musical performance from Georgia Mack, a little preview of what we are doing on the show next week. We're going to talk to the author and Pulitzer Prize finalist Karen Russell about her latest novel. It's The Antidote. It's sort of Grapes of Wrath meets The Wizard of Oz meets Hoosiers. It also features a talking cat. Then we're going to get some stand-up comedy from Sam Miller. Sam is a really interesting guy. I started following him on TikTok, and he is very upfront about the times that he has been to jail, which is like several times in his life, and what he learned from that. The guy is really one of a kind. Can't wait for you to hear him. Then we're going to have a musical performance from Austin-based singer-songwriter David Ramirez. He's got this soulful, kind of gut-wrenching vocal style that is really something else. It's intense, but in a really good way. So make sure you tune in for next week's episode of Livewire. In the meantime, okay, we've made you wait long enough for this. Our musical guest this week served as the trailblazing frontwoman of the Australian punk trio Camp Cope for 8 years, earning international acclaim before their 2023 farewell show at the Sydney Opera House. Now, these days, she's based in Los Angeles, and she's a solo artist. She's continuing to write music that really lays bare her vulnerabilities and her heartbreaks in some really relatable ways. Her latest release, God's Favorite, marks a shift towards soulful Americana ballads, and they're really incredible. Take a listen to Georgia Mack, who recorded this live at the Alberta Rose Theater right here in Portland, Oregon.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So, Georgia, you're in Los Angeles these days?
Yes. I've been here for 3 years.
How's it treating you so far?
I really miss free healthcare, but it rocks here. It's so much fun. Everyone's really kind, and it's a really strange place to be.
Yeah.
As someone from the bottom of the earth, this place it's pretty cool.
Well, I was reading some of your bio, and were you in nursing school or about to enter nursing school when Camp Cope really took off?
I just finished nursing school, and then I played in Camp Cope for like 5 years, and the pandemic happened, and then I became a nurse and worked all through the pandemic.
So you went through all of that and became basically a nurse, got all that training, but then still decided you weren't done with your sort of musical journey?
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever be done with music. It's like just a lifelong burden, I guess, that I love so much.
Well, what song are we going to hear?
Okay, this song, we put it out a few years ago, but then recently put out the full band version, as in last week. And this is my maybe third time playing it on the banjo. But it's called Tropical Lush Ice, and it's just about being a girl. Being a girl in LA, I guess. And no longer smoking cigarettes. Doing something way worse.
Okay. Well, this is Georgia Mack here on Livewire.
I was a tower with 3 cars on the front lawn. Got good at getting gone. She was an angel out before the dawn. Only sung about in songs. She's honking on her vape in an ad cafe. Blow it in my face. Give me a try. If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna do it in style. That's tropical lush ice for you, baby. Can you ever really be alive in California? Can you ever really be alive in California? I left my body running down that street. I'm running on my feet. Know everybody don't want to know me. I'm so normal and complete. Who me? I've been having dreams knocking out my teeth. Mama can't fix me. I'm breathing fire. If I'm gonna die, gonna do it in style. That's tropical lush ice for you, baby. Can you ever really be alive in California? Can you ever really be alive in California? Can you ever really be alive? I know about the east side. Can you ever really be alive? I don't know about the east side. Can you ever really be alive in California? Don't think I've ever really been alive in California. Thank you so much.
That's Georgia Mack here on Livewire with Daniel Fox.
Thank you.
That was Georgia Mack, recorded live at the Alberta Rose Theater in Portland, Oregon. Her EP, God's Favorite, is available now. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Livewire. Boy, that flew by. A huge thanks to our guests, Guy Branum, Julian Brave NoiseCat, and Georgia Mack.
Laura Haddon is our executive producer, Heather D. Michelle is our executive director, and Melanie Sevchenko is our producer and editor. Eben Hoffer is our technical director, Trey Hester is our assistant editor, Valentine Keck is our operations manager, and Ashley Park is our marketing manager.
Our house sound is by D. Neil Blake and Aaron Tomasco, and our house band is Ethan Fox Tucker, Ben Grace, Jacob Miller, Alex Radakovich, and A. Walker Spring, who also composes our music. This show was mixed by Eben Hoffer and Trey Hester.
Additional funding provided by the Oregon Arts Commission, a state agency funded by the state of Oregon and the National Endowment for the Arts. Livewire was created by Robin Tenenbaum and Kate Sokoloff.
This week, we'd like to thank members Doug Johansson of Portland, Oregon, and Carol Ford of St. Helens, Oregon. For more information about our show or how you can listen to our podcast, head on over to livewireradio.org. I'm Luke Burbank for my pal Elena Passarello and the whole Livewire team. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.